and talk about what Paul Pierce said to Steph Curry and his overall opinions on Steph Curry. And, I just got an ESPN notification, so that means I could finally use this. What do you guys think about that? How do you guys feel about that? You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments. But basically, Utah State's Danny Sprinkle accepted a contract from Washington and is now going to be the head coach for Washington. So just wanted to throw that out there. And he led the Aggies to their first NCAA tournament win since 2001, beating TCU on Friday, 88-72. This was sort of like the same thing that that happened with St. Peter's coach when a few years ago when he took St. Peter's on that beautiful Cinderella run that I watched every single game for that. Everyone sort of knew that coach was going to end up leaving for a better job that would give him more money. Like, that's what I mean by a better job, like a job that would actually pay him a lot more. And so when he won with St. Peter's, he immediately got an offer from Seton Hall to be their coach. And that's where he's been in his career now. And it's sort of like expected. Whenever a coach from I wouldn't want to say like a new team, because that team isn't really new, but like when you have a coach that gets brought onto a huge platform and performs and does his job like on that platform, because it is no joke winning in the NCAA tournament. It is no joke beating one of those top teams. Whenever a coach does that and leads their team to doing that, immediately they get job applications everywhere from every single school asking them to be the coach of their program. So props to him, props to St. Peter's coach as well, or like Seton Hall's coach as well, I should say. Definitely served us well when we needed him, and he lives in the minds and in the hearts of a lot of people from Jersey. But anyways, let's go right ahead and actually talk about what Paul Pierce said about Steph Curry. Now, I'm going to say the quote first, and then I'll say my opinions, and then, if there are people in the comments who want to comment on Paul Pierce's opinion, if you guys think Paul Pierce is just talking nonsense again, or if you actually understand and agree with him, then go right ahead and let that be known in the comments. But basically, Paul Pierce said Steph Curry's influence on the game has been greater than LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant. I watched the Celtics game last night. Their first 10 shots were three-pointers. So, in that sense, he said this on Undisputed, by the way, with Skip Bayless. And in that sense, LeBron said this as well on his podcast, that Steph Curry is one of the most influential players since he was watching. So, when LeBron says that, and when Paul Pierce says that, it's really, really difficult to disagree with either of them in that sense, because we see it everywhere in this game now. It's like we can clearly see the impact that Steph Curry has had on the league. We could see it a lot more than we can see LeBron's impact on the league, and arguably Kobe and Michael Jordan's part of the league. Now, I want to disagree with the Michael Jordan part, because while Steph Curry is one of the most influential players in basketball, I think it's very, very difficult to say that he's been more influential than Michael Jordan, because MJ put the NBA in particular on the map. They were marketing everything around him. He made basketball an international sport, because once everyone saw what MJ could do on the court, it was be like Mike. For the entire 90s, it was be like Mike. That entire commercial would replay. Everything was Michael. His shoes, Michael. The chains, Michael. The gum, Michael. Gatorade, drinking Gatorade, Michael. So I don't really think that we could say that Steph Curry is more influential than Jordan, because children would literally just drink Gatorade because they thought that they could be like Mike. They would put on their shoes because they thought they could be like Mike. And granted, children still do that, but it wasn't as widespread and it wasn't as universal as Michael Jordan. And now Kobe, like, I am a big Kobe fan, and even I'm not blind enough to see that Kobe is just a lesser, well, not a lesser. We'll use a different word. Kobe is a modern MJ. That's the right word. That's the right word to use. Kobe is a modern MJ. He is what would happen. He is what you'd get if you put Michael Jordan in the modern NBA. He is the closest representation to MJ, and he's played in not only the early 90s, but he's also played in the late 2000s, where the three-point shot was getting a lot more popular than shooting a lot of difficult mid-ranges and really contested mid-ranges like how Jordan would do that. So, excuse me. With that in mind, I don't really see Kobe as a very influential player, especially when there's Michael Jordan, because, like, again, he's just more or less Michael Jordan, just in the modern NBA. And there wasn't people saying, be like Kobe. There weren't, I mean, obviously, actually, you know what? I'm going to amend that statement, because whenever you are throwing a paper ball in the trash can, when I was a child, everyone shouted, Kobe, every single time. Every single time they would just shout, Kobe, every time. So I can't really say that it's really difficult, because when I know exactly what Paul Pierce is trying to say with this quote. He's trying to say that Steph Curry's play style has completely changed the NBA. And that is 100% true, because now a lot of teams are shooting way more threes than they would normally have done if Curry wasn't the type of player that he was. Because Curry started that whole shoot the threes, and it opened up everything. Like, the analytics would obviously say shooting a bunch of corner threes is the best move, because it's more points in a very consistent type of shot. And the Spurs, honestly, if you guys aren't casual fans, the Spurs in the early 2000s and 2006 and 2007 and those years, their teams would shoot the most three-point shots. Like, the corner three was the Spurs' favorite shot at some point, and then the rest of the league started to catch up, and they all really caught up when the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry started shooting a bunch of threes. Because, Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, why wouldn't you have them shooting a bunch of threes when they're making a bunch of threes? 3 points is more than 2. So, in that sense, I understand exactly what Paul Pierce is saying. But is Curry the most influential, ever, in the world of basketball? I don't think Steph Curry has been the most influential player in just the world of basketball. If we're talking about the league, which is exactly what Paul Pierce was talking about, and comparing Steph Curry's game and how much he's influenced it over to the rest of the league. If we're just talking about NBA, yes, Steph Curry is the most influential player in just in terms of the NBA, because of the play style and because of how teams have been shooting the three ball just as much as he has. But globally, I'm not entirely sure if we could say that, because again, back in the 90s, be like Mike, that was a thing. Kobe Bryant, whenever you're throwing a ball in a trash can, you say Kobe. And it's ironic how I haven't even brought up LeBron in this scenario whatsoever. And I can't really say that LeBron has been, obviously, his persona and how he treats the media, how he treats his teammates, and all of that sort of thing, that's the influential part of his game and his career. But in terms of, the things that he does on the court, I can't really say he's been that influential, because what he does on the court is very difficult to mimic. There aren't that many people that can use their size as well as LeBron does to back everyone down and overpower everyone and get an easy layup there's also not that many people that, while they're able to score that efficiently, they aren't able to pass the ball that efficiently, and they aren't able to rebound the ball that efficiently. So LeBron's play style is a lot more difficult to mimic, and I can't really say that. And because of that, I can't really say that he's as influential as Steph, because Steph Curry's play style is much easier to mimic. I mean, it's shooting threes and running off screens. Not saying that it's not impressive. I'm not saying that it's not impressive at all. What I'm saying is that it's very easy to mimic that and like to make that your offensive system, because as a team, like you shooting is a very vital aspect in any basketball team. So everyone can shoot unless you're Ben Simmons. But everyone and anyone can shoot and can mimic that play style of taking a lot of threes. And it's a lot easier to mimic than just overpowering someone like how LeBron does. And not just LeBron style, even MJ style is very difficult to mimic as well. I mean, because of how athletic Michael Jordan and Kobe are, because like I said, Kobe is basically Michael Jordan if you just put him in the modern NBA. They're both very athletic players, and they both take really difficult shots. Really difficult shots. Kobe is probably the best difficult shots maker the league has ever seen. But they take a lot of difficult shots. And those difficult shots, again, they're not that easy to mimic, because contested shots, they're really difficult to hit. Double clutch contested shots that like Kobe is known for hitting in double teams, nonetheless, those are very difficult shots to repeat 24/7. And obviously, like, I mean, shooting a bunch of deep threes, it's not easy to repeat. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that it's easy to repeat, but if they're open looks, which seem to be looks that a lot of teams in the NBA are getting, it's easier to repeat. So when looking at it with that sense, and you're not looking at it just so straight as an arrow, I do see how Steph Curry is the most influential player in the NBA and that the league has seen. Because, let's face it, nobody was going to start shooting a bunch of three-pointers until somebody started shooting a bunch of three-pointers. And that was Steph Curry. Teams had to catch up to that play style. And until one person did it and shocked the world, nobody was going to repeat that. And it's like the Golden State Warriors, when they had Kevin Durant on that roster, they were unbeatable. They were the best offense in the league. And now we see a lot more teams have a much better offensive rating than that Golden State Warriors team did, because they're shooting a lot more threes and they're adapting to that sort of that super fast-paced offense and like the play style. Like, look at the Pacers the other day. The Pacers, they scored 145 points in a game, and recently in the last year, I believe they even hit like 143 points, and like the Hawks, when they went up against the Hawks, the Hawks scored 143 points, and then the Pacers scored 145 points. Like, there's a lot of scoring, and part of it is with the fast pace and with the variety of three-pointers that they shoot. But that's sort of my opinions on like the influential player. So I think Steph is the most influential player just around this league. But in terms of an overall basketball standpoint and like collectively, like every single year that's been through, I think Michael Jordan has been the most influential player. Because you have to remember, MJ before Steph, there was MJ, and everyone was just trying to be as good as MJ. And like, you can't take that away. It was a whole decade of be like Mike. You can't take that away and just shove that under the rug whatsoever. Like, and especially with Paul Pierce, because this is coming from Paul Pierce, and I don't want to sound like a hater, but Paul Pierce is a hater, and he really does not like LeBron, and he really likes Steph Curry because Steph Curry was able to beat LeBron 3 times. So there might be a little bias on what he says, but I digress. That's just my opinion. And with that, we are out of time for this first segment. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into the second segment, where I give a quick recap of all the NCAA games that happened over the weekend. So I will be right back after this short break.